It's most appreciated that you are here to listen to me just for a little while. I'm an ambassador for hate crime, which means that I make it very aware whenever I attend any meeting anywhere that I am a hate crime ambassador. It's very important that people are aware, and I'm not just a hate crime for regular hate crimes, and I don't mean that to under thingy, but I'm also a learning disability hate crime awareness person, because they need a little bit more guidance, mostly where to go, how to do it, who to speak to, because sometimes when they get directed directly to police when something is happening, the police say, no, you're fine, that's all right, away you go, because they have a disability. So I make sure they know exactly where to go, and I'm in touch with the people that they have to go to, so that they are aware that they are coming and need a little extra time to be listened to. But hate crimes, as I'm sure that you're all aware, is something that is horribly, horribly grown over the pandemic and during the lockdowns. If I just say that a hate crime is a crime, most crimes are something about what you've got in your possession or control that motivates the offender to commit the crime. A hate crime is different. It is something that is perceived by the victim or any other person to be motivated by hostility or prejudice based on a person's race or perceived race, religion or perceived religion, sexual orientation or perceived sexual orientation, disability or perceived disability, and any crime motivated by hostility or prejudice against a person who is transgender or perceived to be transgender. So it's, in other words, it's anything that is based on what they see. It's based on someone's prejudice towards them because of their race, religion, sexual orientation, disability, or because they are transgender. So it's very difficult, because if you don't know the difference when somebody is bullying you, or which sometimes says, hey, I'm only joshing, all those sort of things are very important to take note of and report. Even if it doesn't go to court and become a hate crime and those people are punished, and anything that is upped to a hate crime gets a higher sentence than a regular criminal offence. If somebody abuses you physically or verbally or any other way, you will find that there is, once they say it's a hate crime, because the police will know, it's suddenly up it goes, and the sentence is harsher, the way they're looked at is harsher. And it's something that should be noted, that there is a lot going on at the moment. Evidence of the hate element is not a requirement. You do not need to personally perceive the incident to be a hate-related crime. It'd be enough if another person, a witness, or even a police officer thought that the incident was hate-related. Then it's taken very much forward and escalated as something, a harsher sentence and a harsher perception of that person, because it's just, ridiculous. I mean, I know I'm sort of making it very small, but I know it's huge. Little things like every day, I've got an example of somebody with a learning disability that every day when he went out of his garden from his house and he walked down the road, there was a gang of little girls who unfortunately obviously had parents who felt the same way, who didn't like people with any kind of disability, particularly learning disabilities. And they'd give my beneficiary that he was a very hard time, and then they'd lift up their skirts and call him a paedophile because it was a word they had learned. They were 8 or 9 years old. He was married, 27, 28, really charming guy, an actual peer mentor volunteer for me. He supported other people that needed supporting. He was just a brilliant guy. And these people were just trying to get him into trouble any which way they could. That is purely and simply a hate crime. But because they're underage, then the police go talk to the parents. And if their children are allowed to go out and speak this really, really horrible stuff to a guy minding his own business going by, then the parents are actually fined. That was something that was done in Canvey Island because they were allowing their children to incite hate. And obviously they didn't just decide to do that. They were encouraged by the parents. So there's a lot of things that go on that are not reported in the public press, not reported in your daily lives. So I know that race hatred, religion hatred, and all kinds of hatreds are currently just wonderful, because people with their mental health and their general mental ill health throughout this lockdown, some affecting more than others. So they don't know where to get the hatred, the anger, the why me? Why have I got to stay home? You know, and all this business. They can't find an easy thing. And they're generally the people that watch a lot of news, which again is depressing, which again is off-putting. It's enough to watch once a day if you must catch up with the news, or if you don't want to do that, just catch up with it by reading it on your phone or whatever, if you've got one. And if not, read somebody else's newspaper left somewhere. You know, come on, it's like you don't need it. At the moment, it's not that happy. And that dog is gorgeous. Sorry, Tatiana. So I'm here just to sort of say that in your area, you are particularly lucky. You have a rather good one that's not in every area in the UK. It's Stop Hate UK. And it's not in every area. It's only in a certain amount of areas. And the area that you're in, and I'm just going to do the Royal Borough of Greenwich, is actually one of the places where this Stop Hate Crime UK is all about what I've been talking about and all sides of it. So you really need to know it's about LGBT hate crimes that they've said on their website and learning disability hate crime. So it's Hate Crime UK. And the areas where they particularly work, you're in one of them. So you're really, really lucky. But we also know, sadly, that's where they need to be working. Can I just ask any questions that anyone wants to ask me? Because obviously you don't need to tell me about what you've gone through. If you don't want to, you don't need to tell me. But if you know someone that has gone through it and it's worrying you or it's upsetting you, if you want to know, I'll just quickly say, if you think you are the victim from microaggression right the way through to whatever it may be with physical abuse and whatever, please report it. Because the police, you need to ask for the hate crime team, because the general police, as you know, are rushed off their little tippy toes at the moment. So you need to ask for the hate crime team, okay? Or a number for the hate crime team, because they have a totally different attitude and how they treat it. And if you report it every single time, there will be different police cover for your area. This is what they need to know. It's not the fact that I can't report it. It was only this. I'm not even sure if it was a hate crime. Oh, I don't care. I'll get over it. I just won't listen. They're stupid. They're ignorant of this, to that. Fine. But if you report it, the police cover changes. So that's why you're asked to report it. Okay. 999 if it's like really dangerous for you. But once you've got through to 999 and you need those police, fine. But if you have other time, then please call your local police station. You can get them on different numbers, but please call. Stop Hate Crime, Stop Hate UK is one of the best ones to go for. You have lots of others, actually, that you can approach, from immigration to God knows what the reasons you're being targeted. But there's useful links for hate crime. There's Gallup. This is for your area, by the way, GALOP. There's Greenwich Inclusion Project. There's the Metro Centre. There's Stop Hate UK, as I've already mentioned. There's Victim Support. And there's Metro GAD. Okay. So all of those. And if you want to go to the Met Police website, then you can do that. But if you don't want the Met Police website, then go to people who only specialise in hate crime. And it seems that the ones I've just mentioned, from Greenwich Inclusion Project through to Victim Support to Stop Hate UK, Metro Centre, Gallup, GALOP, and Metro GAD are the people that you need to be contacting, okay? So please, please don't be slow about reporting these things. You really do need to do it. So now I'm opening up on the floor to ask if anyone's got questions for me, and if they have, or if they want to tell me about anything that they might want to question whether it was or it wasn't. Thank you.
I have a question.
Okay, so I'll let you go in. Thank you, Tessa. We're in contact with some of these organisations for our future, hate crime awareness events anyway coming up. But thank you. I've written that list down. So Yannick, I'll let you get in with your question.
Thank you very much, Tessa. That was very, very informative for my benefit, from my perspective. I learned a little bit more than I knew before. Can hate crime be systemic or structural?
That is a very big question and a very good question. I find that what I know about hate crime, it is just from, yes, there are certain groups that don't like anybody that's not white, Anglo-Saxon, blah, blah, blah. We know all about those. So yes, that can be systemic because they will teach whoever joins them or whoever is in their families that hate. But there are other places where it's just something that they are ignorant of anyone different from them. It doesn't matter what colour they are or what race they are, what religion they are. They are just those kind of people that will hate anybody that is a little bit different from them. So I would say, yes, it can if it belongs to a group that are being hounded, but they're very difficult to clamp down on because of the internet, because of the dark net and everything else that's going on. So yes, thank you for your question. Yes, it can be, but generally, thank goodness, in most areas, it is very much people are just picked on because they look different or are perceived to be different for one reason or another. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'll let some other people ask.
Tessa?
Yes.
My name's Claire Wheeler. I'm sorry, I'm not on camera.
No, you're all right, Claire.
You're very inspirational. I'd love your contact details as well. As soon as I heard you speak, I thought, because Yannick and I are also part of the Hate Crime Forum for Greenwich. I'm an Oxley's governor for Greenwich. I'm the Equalities Officer for the GMB Union, but I'm not here for any of those things. I'm also an autistic adult with a child who's autistic and ADHD. And as I was hearing you speak, I just thought, what I worry about is certainly within schools. My son has been horrifically treated because of his differences, his disabilities within schools, within Royal Borough of Greenwich schools, and is now within Bexley schools. And I think I'm actually being targeted myself now as an autistic adult by a head teacher. I get whiplash. Actually, on every single email I get from him, I'm almost getting whiplash. It's like the man's got multiple personalities, and he's actually now just told me that I'm not going to that I must communicate with him, either come to a meeting with him or communicate with him verbally, even though I communicate in writing. It's how I communicate, and sometimes I can communicate very well, other times I can communicate really badly. So I do much better, even from my own failings, whatever you'd like to call them, that sometimes I communicate better because then I can check out, I'm a very blunt communicator. I'm very honest, very, very direct, whether call that as part of my autism.
Me too, Claire, go on.
But what worries me is that I'm seeing this, and I'm a national advocate for children with learning needs and adults as well. And I'm just seeing a huge increase, but it's very much within the schools. Like, you're suddenly then they're gaslighting, they're saying things didn't happen. I mean, this head teacher is basically saying, I'm not putting things in writing. I'm not going to put things in writing. And ultimately, I'm going to ignore you then. And then where do you go? I'm a poor person, so I don't have access to the legal, I'm always saying this to Yannick, if I was a rich person, I'd be able to drag these people out of the long grass and they'd have to say the things that they are meaning, because a lot of time they insinuate things. And so as an autistic adult, although I pretty much get what they're insinuating, I like them to be very clear, because the only way you can fight these people is in short grass. But I suppose I don't really know where to go with this now. And I'm an advocate for other people, so I'm sort of supposed to be the one that people come to. And I think, well, you've almost like really touched my heart today. I could have cried when I heard you speak about what that poor man has been going through, and maybe it's because it's touched a nerve with what I didn't realise that I'm actually going through as well, but specifically within the education system, and just trying to fight for my son's needs to be met, because a lot of the time it's just unmet need. And then as an autistic adult, I mean, I've had people, they call you, they say you're mentally unwell and all the rest of it. You're this, you're that. And a lot of the time I say, yeah, you're absolutely right. I'm all of those things. And I challenge anyone else not to be those things, considering the behaviour they're having to deal with from the likes of you, Mr. Head Teacher, and Mr. Schools and all the rest of it. So, I mean, it's not going to stop me. One thing, being an autistic adult, I'm like a dog with a bone. But I just wonder to sort of take your advice and your expertise about what would you suggest. I mean, I sort of be a bit embarrassed to ring up Hate, UK and say, actually, I think this is a hate crime from a head teacher.
Claire, I understand what you're saying and I'm feeling it, and you've made me go goosebumpy a couple of times. So yeah, I do understand what you're going through and the frustration that you're suffering. It's really, really hard when we're dealing. If that one person won't deal with you, do they have? I'm going to go through all the lists that I've just written. As an Oxley governor, do the governors that you sit with know other governors from your child's school?
There are councillors. I've looked at that, but I try to keep it very separate because obviously, I'm an elected governor for Greenwich, and I take my role really seriously. And ultimately, this is not a governor situation. It's not. I'm a union member. I'm the equalities officer for the GMB union at Greenwich, and this is happening to me. I know all about the Equalities Act, but if you've got a head teacher that will refuse to make reasonable adjustments, and I can't sort of make it. I mean, the chair of governors at the school is a very, very senior solicitor, and again, they're just saying, well, no, you need to go into a meeting with him. I've been into a meeting with this man. This man has screamed and shouted, and I've got the meeting recorded as well, so it can't be denied. That he doesn't care what I say, what I do, what human rights I quote. He's not doing it. So what do you do in a situation when you're dealing with somebody who I would view as probably got something like some kind of narcissistic personality? But then where do you go? Because my role is my also role. I mean, I've got a role here as my son's advocate as well. But because I'm trying to do that, I've got a head teacher who's preventing me. So there's a dual role here for me as a parent and somebody who's essentially being a victim. But I mean, all the other roles I have, you'd think there'd be some, but I do know what I'm talking about. I recognise this for what it is. And I'm almost a bit embarrassed to be saying this, that this is what's happening to me. But it's only just when you gave that example of that man and the little girls, I suddenly thought, oh my God, this is what's happening to me. So.
Right. The first thing I need to say, I'm so in sympathy with you. I'm empathizing with you. It's a horrific experience, emotionally, physically, mentally. It must drive you crazy that you're going around in circles, and every time you try to approach this, I know, I understand. But what I'm going to suggest now is that you take it to the police hate team and you get the help of Stop Hate UK. You've got to.
Yeah. Okay. I will do. I'm glad
you need to. And
when
you
I
need
come
to
off this
write
meeting,
down
I will do that.
Yeah. Claire.
Thank you, Tessa.
Yeah, write it down before you have the conversation. Write down his specific offences, if you like. Okay.
Okay.
Write it all down so that you have it in front of you, and have that tape thing of your meeting together when he got completely out of hand and unprofessional, and have that as well. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Don't break my heart again. I can't bear it. But anyone else?
I think we had raised hands. Was it Anne-Marie? You raised your hand. I can't see everybody on my screen. Yeah, Anne-Marie?
Yes, that's correct. Yes, I'm here.
Okay, my dear, go ahead.
Lovely. I just wanted to say good morning, everyone. As well as being a Greenwich resident, I am one of the local councillors for Abbeywood Ward. And thank you, Yannick, for sharing the information of this meeting with me. I did say I would try and make it, and I have, and I'm glad that I managed to. I just wanted to come in hearing Claire passionate delivery just then, and to back up, yes, I'm glad Tessa said to report it. The funny thing is, what I heard Claire saying is that she actually knew what she should do. She also knew and knows that there are counsellors that you can basically, we're here to assist, and we're sort of advocates. One of the roles that we have is to be advocates on behalf of our constituents. So whatever ward you live in, Claire, get to know your local councillors as well. There are councillors in there. Each ward has 3 councillors, and you can use them. If for whatever reason you don't want to use one of your own ward ones, you can make an arrangement to speak to somebody else to assist and advocate through the council on your behalf. It's not to say that things will be resolved overnight, but it is much better to feel you've got some allies rather than to think you're on your own and have nowhere to go, because that is what actually affects us really bad. It's that frustration of feeling I'm in a bubble of one, just bouncing about, being blown hither and thither by the wind with nowhere to go. But once you've got control, with support, that power comes back to you. And even though it's going to be a long time, things often don't get resolved overnight, but once you can see a trajectory, it's going somewhere, slowly it gets there, but with support, not on your own. Okay, so I'm glad to hear that, and I just wanted to still come in anyway to just add a little bit. And then also just a little bit on Yannick's question. Yes, to be honest, it depends on the circumstances. Hate, discrimination, one resource against another can happen anywhere, at any time, depending. So it's not one thing or the other. It really often, it's when you look at different circumstances and you start picking at it. It becomes systemic if everyone you're going to within an organization is working against you. So at the moment, Claire's situation is sounding very systemic, but it's possibly when you start looking at the individuals or the little individual variants that go with it. If you have a bully in a position of authority, those below them, unfortunately, won't necessarily stand up and do what's right. Even if on an individual level, they'll take you aside and say, look, I know that wasn't right. But, you know, what I find annoying when anyone has done that to me is I look at them and I said, but you've sat there in a meeting, for example, and been part of the systemic.
Sorry, guys. Can you hear Anne-Marie? Can you put your mic back on? Because I had to, I tried to put everybody on mute because I can hear some noise in the background. So can everybody make sure, yeah, can everybody please ensure that you have your microphones on mute? Because I'm trying to make sure that we hear just the person that's speaking at the moment. So if you don't have your microphone on mute, please, can you check now? Thank you. Go ahead, Anne-Marie, sorry.
Do you know where, at what point? You muted everyone. Tessa is muted as well. Tessa, unmute and then remind.
Yes, I've unmuted. Yes, when you were saying about the systemic matter is very much apparent, but generally it's when you go into a certain area, it could be just anybody at any time, depending on the circumstances. It's generally there.
Thank you for that. And also, sometimes don't worry about the labels. If you're in a situation and it doesn't feel right, trust your gut instincts. It is not right. The next step is, are you prepared to do anything about it? And I think what the purpose I'm hearing from this meeting is that there are lots of resources out there. There goes my phone. It's probably a resident ringing. There's lots of resources out there that is my council phone. Okay, let me just, I'll have to call them back. Yes, there's lots of resources out there and we need and plug into those resources. And certainly the local authority has a community, the councillors, don't forget that's another resource as well. I have had to intervene and have case law for schools where parents feel their child is being harassed or bullied in school or things like that. So yeah, we can get involved as well. Okay.
Can I just say one thing to Anne-Marie? Anne-Marie, you and I do know each other, and you have been probably one of the only people previously, you've been a very, very brave counsellor in relation to sort of other schools. So I'm fully aware of you and I'm really glad you're in this meeting. My son's school is actually a Bexley school, so it's not a Greenwich school. But I know you intervened. I know you intervened with another school, and you were probably one of the only brave ones that did so. So I'm really glad you're here. So and thank you.
Okay, you have the advantage of me there, Claire, but it doesn't matter that your child is out of borough. there is still a responsibility once you are a Greenwich resident. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks very much, Anne-Marie. I'm keen to just get back to Tessa and let her, she's going to push off now because it's 12:30. So thank you, Tessa. Thanks very much for coming on and giving us all this information and interacting with us. We'd really love to see you back at another meeting with us. I will send you some dates and see whether you are free to hop on. Okay. So thank you very much. You're free to slope off if you want.
Thank you so much, Tatiana. Thank you very much, everybody, for your welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Tessa.
Thank you.
Okay. So moving on with the schedule for this event today. This isn't, as you know, this is our first one. And we have we're still trying to feel out exactly where we're going with it, but it's really good to talk and we want to bring about awareness. And thank you very much, Claire and Anne-Marie, for your input in that last section. It's really, really interesting and eye-opening. And I really feel for you, Claire, in your situation. But this is what we're here. We're here to talk about everything and try to find solutions to problems. Okay, so we've got a few people that would like to speak about their experiences today as well. And I'm going to bring up somebody else now that would like to talk on the subject. So if Lauren, are you ready? Lauren? I think Lauren's still in the room. You have to take your mic off, Lauren. Not everybody is on my screen. Lauren, are you there? Hello, Lauren? Yannick?
Yeah, give me a second, Tatiana. I'm just trying to reach her. I know she had some issues with her microphone because of the reception.
Yeah, so what I'm going to say is, Yannick, have you got a screen share? Are you also a host? Because you had a small video.
Yes.
Do you want to do that now, or should we ask Teo?
I think you can bring on Teo.
Okay, awesome. I'll let you crack on with trying to get Lauren back on and the video uploaded so we can have a look. Okay, so we're going to move on to Teo and come back, yeah? Okay, Teo, please, would you take your microphone off mute? I know you've been invited today, so please, could you share your story? Are you there, Teo? Can everybody hear me? I'm sure. I don't know if I'm kind of coming across to everyone.
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Yeah, I can hear you fine as well.
Okay, so Teo?
Yes.
Awesome. Let's hear what your mic sounds like there.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, hello. Yeah, we can hear you perfectly. Okay, would you like to go ahead? Thank you very much for coming to the meeting today.
Okay, yeah, I'm glad you I'm invited to join the meeting. It was at a very short notice. So we are going to speak about hate crime. And what I wanted to know is that what happened where the hate is being committed by the government against the citizen. And because at the moment, I believe the government is involved in committing hate crime against the citizen themselves. And most importantly, the person involved is powerless and it doesn't have the financial capability like the government. What I mean by the government is the totality of the government, the police, the courts, the legal aid, the family court, all gang up against a citizen because he's black or disabled. Because I have a child who is disabled and the government, they join together because when I try to report to the MP, who are also part of the government, they are not going to do anything. If you report to the councillors, who is also part of the government. He's not going to do anything. And if you try to get a legal aid, the solicitor that is involved in legal aid is not going to help you. And if you try to do it by yourself, they are not going to answer you. And so there are some citizens that has been condemned like an outcast because they are poor and black. And then those citizens are suffering in this country called United Kingdom because of their color or because of their disability. And I don't understand that something like this could be going on in the United Kingdom. And that is what I want people to enlighten me or to help me. I've seen a name called Stop Hate UK, Police Hate Crime. And sometimes when you report to the police as well about the crime that has been committed by the government, and that the police himself is part of the government and police involved in this crime as well, you are not going to get a solution to it. I don't know where else to go. That's why I'm talking it in this forum, and I hope somebody can help me. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Definitely can hear you.
I hope what I'm saying is making sense.
It's making sense to me.
Yeah,
I hope
where the government, the totality of the government is involved in hate crime, and then and is involved a citizen who is black and poor and disabled. Where can that person go to get his matter resolved? Okay,
Teo. Everybody could hear you with what you were just saying, and I feel like if there is anybody out there that might be able to shed some light on the situation, because when Yannick asked about the systemic and structural, hate crimes, for me, we've kind of touched on quite a few that sound like that for me, although I'm not a professional. So I see Anne-Marie, you have your mic off. Would you like to come through to this, please? Thank you.
Yeah, it's the same thing again, isn't it? If it's you on your own, feeling as though you're trying to go up against the system,
yes,
it becomes overwhelming. So this is where you have to get advocacy. You need to go. It cannot just be about yourself, because the reality is you're not given your rights. You have to fight for your rights in all walks of life. Okay, and so you can either just decide, oh, that's it, I can't be bothered, or you turn around and you say, no, I have this right. I'm entitled to this right. I'm going to go and get my right. Which now that's where the hard work starts, and you need advocacy. You cannot go by yourself. So were you at the first part of the meeting, Ade?
Sorry, me?
You hear the first part of this meeting?
No.
Okay.
No.
Right. So I don't know if there's going to be notes or what, or whether it's going to be recorded for viewing. But you need to listen to all of that again, because in terms of all the services that are out there, okay, it is not one man, one woman, one family show. There is a whole system of advocacy out there that you need to plug into.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. That's what I'll say.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Anne-Marie. Thanks so much for enlightening Teo on that. And Teo, this is a recorded meeting, and we will be sending through some of the information, the listings of the organizations that you might be able to tap into for advocacy, notwithstanding our one, which is BME Volunteers and Black Major. So I'll be able to let you know some more information after this meeting.
All right.
Okay, thank you very much, Teo. It was really, really, really hard to listen to your story as well. And this is obviously, you're saying that it's lots of people, it's not just one person. This is very difficult for very many people that go through this.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Teo.
Yeah.
Okay. Yannick, are you there?
Yes, I am. Just to add to what you said to Teo there, we have been working with Teo for a while, so I do know a little bit about the background with regards to this situation. I can't really talk about that because this is a recorded and it's a public forum. and it concerns a child. So, and there are other things that are pending. But I say that to kind of highlight some of the issues with this that Teo continues to face, because if you are going through the courts and the family system, your hands are often tied with regards to what you can and cannot say, which takes away a voice. So I guess if for nothing else, Teo, I'm glad you were able to speak about it. I know this is something you've been doing for a very long time. It's been a full-time job for you, and you've not the extent and the depth to which you go to, and how you've almost become a solicitor. And I guess it echoes what Councillor Anne-Marie is saying with regards to trying to do this by yourself and needing support, a lot of support, various different types of support along the way, including advocacy, wherever you can find it. I guess the challenge, in my experience and in yours and in some of the others that I've come across, Anne-Marie, with that is there is what looks like a system that is there to help. Quite often, if it is helpful, it's oversaturated because there are few and far in between. So there's a long waiting time. And this is a best case scenario to actually access those services, if you ever access them at all. You can't do nothing in that time, so you have to try alternatives. I guess it's just to kind of leave something for you to maybe go away with in some of the groups and meetings that you're involved with that are decision making, for you guys to have a look at it, because it's a wider issue. It is often ignored, and it doesn't really matter what system parents are using, whether it's academic, to get redress or justice in some way, shape or form. They're encountering a problem. And I shall leave that there. Thanks, Tatiana. I think Lauren may be on now. I know that she's having some challenges with network, and so we will try and get her connected. She wants to offer, I guess, another experience of hate crime. Again, an autistic person, individual. I'll let her speak for herself. If not today, again, she can obviously have this conversation another day, because her experience, once again, I guess, for those in this room that can provide support or take this information and make it meaningful elsewhere, it's another example of what happens at a different age group. Again, the same ethnic background. So whether that makes a difference or not, it's irrelevant when it comes to hate crime. And I think that's what Tessa was trying to say. But I would like to kind of hear a little bit more of Lauren if she's on.
Lauren, are you here? I don't think she's here. Because I see all the guests in the room, so I don't think she's here, Janet. Can't see.
No,
Yeah.
she's gone. She's gone.
Yeah, you're right. I can't see. And okay, Yannick. So how about Sean? No go there.
Sean isn't here today. Sean is a young person. I will speak on his behalf because he's autistic and communication can be an issue for him on a regular basis, but he's a Greenwich resident, and he certainly will be here next time in 4 weeks' time to speak, because I would really try to get him to do something for himself. But he's looking to do a project in relation to autism within Greenwich, but from a young person's perspective. And he's looking for some research across board, from lived experiences to professional experiences. And this is part of his academic study. which I think looks to highlight some of the challenges he's facing as a young person in the academic system today, because he's in that 16 to 19-year-old. But he's diagnosed autistic. He speaks publicly, or has spoken publicly, and so he wouldn't mind me sharing that information. But I guess he's a teenager. I guess outside of that, I would really like to leave it up to him to actually come when he's able and share for himself how he would want to. But the reason we were going to have him on today was to give another, I guess, a young person's perspective, but with that, some of the work that he's doing, which I think is quite important, not just for himself, but for his peers, and I think for time to come. But I guess you'll hear from him another time. I just wanted to kind of mention him at this forum, and I guess for when he does come here, prepare those who are here for some of his content, and some maybe start thinking in and around perhaps maybe some of the ways that we could help him and support him with his research.
Okay, thank you, Yannick. I think if Lauren's not on and and Sean at this point, and we're moving up to the hour of 12, I think if we could maybe bring in the Q&A and, you know, start talking amongst ourselves about this, this subject. So if anybody wanted to kick off anything, let's have a conversation.
Can I just say something, just leading on from what Yannick said, and in relation to young people? I'm an advocate for young people nationally, and you know, I mean, hate crime, disability hate crime is so underreported. We've got I think we've got one part-time police officer in the hate crime for the police, and she's a very nice lady. Tara is really nice, but she's just going to burn out. And you know, here in Greenwich, it's so underreported anyway. But you know, this has really made me think today about the fact that I, as an adult, just accept hate crime as as something that happens daily, and actually my son does as well, and he's a teenager from Greenwich, goes to a Bexley school, but constant, you know, every single day of the week, you know, there is some kind of level, and actually I think today has just made me realise that, and especially from what Anne-Marie's saying, is that, you know, it's time to fight back. It's time to say, no, enough's enough, and this shouldn't happen. And I've really empathised, Teo, with what you're saying in relation to poverty, because a lot of this happens, you know, a lot of the fight back, you know, is in relation to sort of not having the sort of the facilities, the money to sort of fight back. I mean, while we've been on this meeting, I've just had an email back from legal aid, and I've been raising exactly what I've just said in this meeting, and they're basically saying we can't help you. We can't help you because it's not education disability discrimination, even though it's being done by a head teacher in a school, because it's not actually, it's the way the whole system is almost geared against poor people, and that is wrong. But then we've also got to work within the realms of the system. So how do we do that? And actually, as Anne-Marie's saying, is there are things out there, as Tessa said earlier on, we've just got to work with what we've got. But I think at the same time, it's coming together as a group to say, actually, enough's enough. How do we make it better for adults and young people within our borough and sort of nationally around challenging hate crime? So I'll be quiet now.
Would anybody like to come in on that? Thank you, Claire.
Can you hear us, Lauren? And I think Lauren is back on, and I'm wondering if she's able to hear. You're on mute if you can hear me and you're speaking.
Okay, Lauren, are you there? You just need to unmute your mic. Sorry, guys, let's just try to, just a technical bit right here. So I can see that Lauren is here. I'm not sure if she can hear me. Lauren, awesome.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Wonderful. I'm going to stop talking so you can get on as soon as possible. Thank you.
Sorry, are you ready for me to share? Hi everybody, my name is Lauren. I am autistic. I'm 29 years old. I didn't get to introduce myself in the beginning. I've got some connection issues. So I just wanted to share my experience with you guys today of hate crime. Pre-COVID, I am a business development consultant and an alcohol licensee. So simply what that means is I specialize in running venues, so nightclubs, bars, anything with alcohol on the premises, because you need a specific license to retail alcohol. So with my consultancy, I would go into businesses that were failing. I went into this one particular business. So this was in a time when I was living outside of London in the Midlands. I went into a particular business where the previous management had stolen a lot of money over a long period of time. So once discovered, the landlords obviously got rid of the previous management team. With the previous management team went the security team and all of the staff apart from my kitchen manager. So with regards to my kitchen manager was a police support officer, so a local police officer, part-time. So he was part-time kitchen manager, part-time police officer. So with regards to the previous security team, we are, obviously, I'm a young black female. They were all white. It was a very small town. And when I basically refurbished the venue and relaunched the business under my business, I posted a picture on our social media of myself and some of the bar staff that I had. Now, with that picture, it was screenshot by some of, I'm not sure who it was screenshot by, but it was reposted in their local group, local Facebook group. And then began to, under the picture that they screenshot, they posted a comment which said that it looked like a brothel. Now, from that comment, I've been checking over it, and I collated. Basically, I went and screenshot everybody that had commented on this picture. I had other pictures, personal pictures that were taken from my Facebook profile and shared across some of these groups, and there were sexist remarks that were being plastered all along with these pictures of myself and my team. So I've collected, I think it's about 50 pages just of screenshots of the profiles and the names of people that were involved. They were inciting, in their comments, they were inciting violence. They were hoping that, for example, they were saying that they were coming to this town and they were going to cause drama and cause issues, and they hoped that I would get hurt in the process. So this went on for a few days, and especially because I had a police officer working in the business who was also involved. As I said, I screenshot all of this and I forwarded it on to the police, the local police, and reported it as a hate crime. I don't really remember what the results were, but I know that the main people involved were spoken to. I don't know if they were actually dealt with. At the time, it was very overwhelming for me. I was I had taken over a new business in an area that was predominantly white. Also being a black girl in the alcohol trade, I stood out anyway. So I had a lot on my plate. And for me, I just wanted to deal with it properly to ensure that I made a change in that borough or that area. And I stood up for myself. And I also stood up for some of the diverse staff that I had hired that weren't able to get a job prior to me being at that particular venue. So I just wanted to share that with you guys as my experience. Sorry for the delay. I think I was meant to be on after Tessa, but that's my connection issues. I don't know if anybody had any questions or any comments with regards to my experience there with hate crime.
Thank you, Lauren, and I appreciate you getting back in on this meeting after the connection went, and I know you've been working. Yeah, it's fine. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you coming back and sharing your story. Wow, my mind is blown. Has anybody? I mean, for me, I just, with all of this, I don't understand it because it doesn't impress upon me to do this to people, and I just don't have that amount of time in my life because, you know, I just don't have hatred like that for other people. But we're all very different in this world, and it seems that sometimes also power is something that people let go to their head, you know. And is anybody else here that would like to come in on anything that Lauren, or discuss, bring to light anything that Lauren has said within her speech? Would anybody like to say anything, comment on anything? Welcome, brother. Welcome, brother. Yeah, welcome. Okay. Anybody? The floor is open. Let's have some discussion before we go on. Yannick, anyone? Okay, so I don't think there's much to say, but for me, I would say, Lauren, that it seems to me that when there is a saturation of a certain type of maybe culture, color, you know, belief system or anything, people don't like people to rock the boat. So I think that in essence is, even though you didn't come there to rock the boat, you know, you came there in a capacity of a professional one to come to do a business and a job just exactly like everybody else within that whole field. And it seems to be, I don't know what this is called, whether this is structural or systemic, I'm not really sure, or whether this is like, because when I say cultural, because that could be the culture, not only of where people come from, but just the environment, you know, the definite environment of where people are used to something, and then when something else, yes, you know, for me, I feel that was what was displayed in the experience that you had here. And for people to really jump on top of that and be, you know, dragging your name through the mud or poking fun at people is a definite hate crime. It's a definite hate crime because they haven't sat and spoken to you. They're not, you know, ready to listen to where you're going with what you're doing. They're just absolutely at the beginning, just off the bat, you know, let's start with this. And I think this shows a lot of ignorance in people. Do you know what I mean? Because they don't know people that are maybe from where they think you're from, because I doubt if anybody has even spent the time to get to know you within the area you were. For me, it just shows that people can be so ignorant and closed-minded, you know. And in a professional capacity, the mind is boggling from what I could hear from Claire today, because I think you were in and out of the meeting. From I heard from Claire and what we heard from Teo, it feels as if people are just not being listened to and also not accepted. There's no acceptance of people that are different, or if you're powerless, people want to, I mean, in your situation, Lauren, it feels like you really took the strength and, you know, being you as an individual, you know, trying to fight back for yourself and then trying to find different things. But with Claire's situation, she has also got the gumption. She has also got the drive. But there's a lot of things that are against her in the situation that she's in because of the power struggle. And that is something that I think we spoke a lot about today, just to fill you in, Lauren, about when you're trying, and Teo said it as well, when you're trying to fight against what the powers that be, you feel like a small fish in a big ocean. And I think there's going forward to having our meetings monthly, I feel like we're going to be trying to come together on some type of solutions, you know, and and we'll have more professionals on each and every time to help people as they come to this meeting. So at the moment, thank you, Lauren, and I'm really glad that you came and shared your story. And we see a new person in the room, and he's Boba, or Boba. I need to say this name properly. Boba, introduce yourself, my dear.
Yes, he's Buba.
Buba.
In short, okay. Yes, he's Abubakar, but for short, for everyone to, yes, I say Buba. Yes. Okay. Yes, I'm come from West Africa, Burkina Faso. And I'm happy to see you all safe in this difficult time. And I'm happy to play with you or for you. And I hope you will enjoy.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So Janet, is there anything that you'd like to say?
Yes, whilst Buva play, and a question that I guess, unfortunately, Mark couldn't be here today, but he will be here next time. And he was going to deliver a presentation which is about awareness and what is hate crime. And Tessa gave a good account of that. But I guess I wanted to have a bit more of a conversation with regards to what we think hate crime is within this forum, i.e. myself. What is hate crime to me? I'm beginning with asking, I guess, Lauren, what hate crime means in terms of her and her experience and her as an autistic person. The same with Claire, and Claire as well as a parent. And I guess that would go with Tayo. And I guess for the sake of us, in terms of this meeting, we're also public because it's training for our support workers. And therefore, from their perspective, it would be interesting to hear what their current understanding of what hate crime is. And that may help in terms of further training that they will go through to how to become more hate crime aware. And so I guess the feedback would be useful for them, for us, and it would be useful to kind of have that conversation after Buba has had a chance to play.
Okay, Buba? Thank you very much. If you'd like to step into the spotlight.
Okay. The rhythm I will play with his name, Jansa, and he is for people to, in my language, to come together. Yeah, and his name Jansa. Okay, I hope you will enjoy.
Hello? Is it just me or?
It stopped.
Yeah, it's completely stopped.
Oh no. Baba, can you hear us? Your Wi-Fi has frozen. Baba, Yannick, please, could you get in contact with him?
Yeah, I'm just trying to reach him now. So if we, let's just move on, I think, with having the conversation, maybe for the next 10, 15 minutes. And then I kind of want to have a close, thank everybody for attending. And then I want to have a close conversation, I guess, with our team and the support workers just to debrief, if that's okay.
Okay, all right. So, Yannick, would you like to, you were saying that you wanted to have more of a conversation on the, what was it that you were asking again? Because there was Claire and Lauren.
What is hate crime? What is hate crime for you specifically? How has it unfolded in your life specifically? What is your perspective of hate crime, I guess, along those lines?
So Lauren's ready to answer. If you don't mind, Claire.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fine. Thank you.
Thank you. So, with regards to what I perceive hate crime to be, I understand hate crime to be any crime that is committed against a person or against myself that is based on nothing I have done. It is based solely on my characteristics that I cannot control. And within hate crime, those characteristics would be what we call a protected characteristic, which is what Tessa discussed earlier. So in my instance, that has been race, in the instance that I've explained to you. And I just wanted to speak and let everybody know that it's something that I found is quite common. I don't know if it's hate crime or if it would maybe be referred to as hate incidents. But working in the licensed trade, so working with alcohol, working in pubs, bars and venues, sort of running them, I have found in my experience, I've been in the industry for 6 years now, and I've found in my experience that it's not common, it's highly uncommon for somebody of my skin tone to be working in those venues and to be in such a senior level, and whether it be comments in passing or whether it be things more extreme, as I've explained to you guys, I have experienced hatred based on the color of my skin and the fact that I'm a female. I have experienced that throughout my working career in the licensed trade, working with alcohol. And that's something that I have personally worked to make sure I employ a diverse catalogue of staff and so to empower them. Because to go back to what Tatiana was saying, it's that very, I used to call it small town mentality. Me coming from London, I'm bubbly. When you're in a management position, you have to be very confident, especially when you're working with alcohol. There's a lot of law that you are held responsible for. So you have to have that fire and that kind of pizzazz. And it's very hard to maintain that when you are being, you're being basically treated unfairly. You're being attacked racially, whether it be verbal, whether it be the fact that in my instance, they were coming to take pictures of me whilst I was just at work. So people would just walk past and take a picture and post it. Those things can all infringe on somebody's security, their safety, how they view themselves. There are many implications for when people commit crimes such as hate crime that are purely based on something that the person cannot control. It's very hard to stay motivated, but to also motivate a team of younger, more impressionable minds than you. And I would just say that for me, that's why it's so important. I love my job and I love my career. Unfortunately, I don't have it right now, but when things reopen and go back to some form of normality, I will go straight back into my industry, and I will work at how I can incorporate that with what I'm doing now, However, I will go back into that industry and I will be a figure and I will be a role model for anybody else who comes up and thinks, you know what, I'd actually like to be in that industry. I've never seen anybody like me in that industry, but I'd like to be there. So where I'm leaving my part of the discussion is that, yes, it's a horrible thing to experience. There is always strength in being able to report those kind of crimes, to report any kind of crime. So I would always advise, you know, if you're maybe not willing to, or you're not forthcoming to go and report it to the police straight away, speak to somebody. Find somebody like Tessa in your local area. Even if it's just a friend or a relative, speak to them, because something that I go by a lot is I have 9 younger siblings, and the closest in age to me is my sister, who I would frequently employ. And anytime that my brain experiences something and then I'm not sure how to process it or how to respond, I'll always ask, what would I do if that were my sister in that situation? And the way that I would act if it were my younger sister in that situation would always be in a way of protection, in a way of defense, in a way of doing what's right. Whereas honestly, sometimes it's easy to just say, oh, I can't be bothered, or I don't want the drama, I don't want the stress, I don't want to go through an ordeal of reporting it. And these are all valid things. And I think this is something that we can discuss on the forums, on the meetings going forward, and get some ideas together. It's really important that we are spreading awareness about what hate crime is, because it happens so easily today, especially on social media. It's a big problem. So I don't know if anybody has anything they wanted to add, or I know Claire was also going to speak. So yeah, I just think if you can find the strength, great, be that person. If you, for whatever reason, can't find the strength, confide in somebody that's close to you and see if they can help you, because just reporting it, that alone, it's power, and it speaks volumes. And you don't know, that could be saving your life, that could be saving somebody else's life. It's easy to be attacked online, and that's a big thing that it's weighing on my heart, is for people who are more vulnerable. I think I did mention that I'm autistic. People who are more vulnerable, we may not want to speak out as much, and we may, as Tessa said earlier, have these experiences where we just brush them to the side and just think, oh, you know, I'll just let it slide. But it's not acceptable, and it's really not. It's not on. Yeah, I'm not sure if anybody wants to jump in here, or if Claire, if you're ready to speak.
Lauren, I echo what you say. To be honest, I think for me, hate crime is more in relation to feelings. You know, what we were talking about earlier on, Tatiana, you were also talking about this, you know, is that I call it the woodpecker effect. So whereby it's the tap, 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 tap. And whereas, you know, you almost doubt yourself, you get to a point whereby you doubt yourself and say, is this really, you know, is this something? But ultimately, if you get to a point, you know, if you imagine what a woodpecker then does to a tree, and also what a woodpecker, the capabilities of what that woodpecker can do, is it can bring down a tree. And then so for me, in relation to hate crime, I experience it an awful lot. And I suppose I just accept it, because in many situations I'm in certain roles, and I feel like I can't really raise it, because otherwise it'll be seen as almost complaining. Oh, well, she's complaining again. Oh, you know, the amount of people who say, oh, well, she's autistic. Yes, I am autistic. You're absolutely right. But what's the relevance of that? I know, exactly. So for me, it's more of a feeling. Yannick will tell you, you know, I've laid on my living room carpet on many occasions where I'm thinking, I can't carry on, I can't do this. And then you just get back up and you continue to fight. I'm not somebody who's not going to fight. I'm an advocate for many other people, but it's hard. And so I think in relation to hate crime, for me, it's more of the emotion. I mean, I'll give you an example of, I went to report something at Bexley Heath police station on my first. I've been a governor for he's got into my third year, and on the first, before my first ever governor's meeting, I went to report something at Bexley police station. It's not funny, but I'm laughing because I have to laugh. And I asked the officer, because I'd spoken to somebody who was an advocate, who was an autistic advocate, and they said go in and make sure you ask them for an autism trained officer. And the officer laughed in my face, literally laughed in my face. And because I tried to advocate for myself and said, this is obviously really serious, I'd like to raise this, he basically said, I could arrest you for not going away. And they all stood at the back of the police station and they all laughed. And I just thought, and I went away. I remember I went into my governor's meeting, my first ever governor's meeting. I was physically shaking. I've never experienced anything like it before in my life. And I thought, wow, what do I do? And the only thing I have done is, I sit on the board for her centre, so I'm the chair of their user steering group. Came through domestic abuse, and if anyone was to be going in and reporting, and I'm quite a tough cookie. I'm quite a strong cookie. And that rocked me to my very core. And that was from actual police officer who was supposed to be there to help. So, that's not going to stop me. I'm going to keep going back. I'm going to keep fighting. I keep getting, every time they knock you down, I just get back up, because what's the alternative? But I certainly, Lauren, I would really, really like to speak to you in relation to your licensing work. And also there's something in Greenwich, I'm not sure if you're aware, there's like a safety charter that Greenwich have adopted, and I'm not sure if you're even aware of that, but I'd love to have a conversation with you even outside of this meeting excuse me, in relation to this. But yeah, just to keep repeating, for me, hate crime is the feeling, the emotion, and about, I'd like accountability. We talk about reporting things, but I think sometimes, especially disability hate crime, it's very much viewed as an afterthought. So that's, excuse me, I've got a frog in my throat. But yeah, it's almost seen as an afterthought, and then for that, but we've got to keep challenging. They say, your journey is made up of 1,000 steps, so we have to keep making those steps to get to where we need to be. So but that's what I've got to say.
Thank you, Claire. If I believe Yannick will connect us on the call, I'm very happy to speak with you. Do you want to jump in, Yannick? I was going to add something in, but please go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm Lauren.
This is a question to evoke thoughts. So this has just come to my head. So as you guys should be able to see, I'm wearing my glasses. I have Erlin syndrome, which is prevalent in, the statistics say, about 47% of the autistic population, whether diagnosed or undiagnosed. So my lenses are coloured, and just to evoke thought, when I moved back down to London a couple of years ago, I was running a very, let's say, a popular, renowned bar in a predominantly black area. And what I faced continuously every single day when I was there is name calling for my glasses. So people would call me Power Ranger, people would call me, they would make all kinds of jokes, which obviously to them it seems funny, but when that's, as Claire said, when you're pecking every single day, making comments about something that I can't control, I need these to be able to see. People, I've forgotten his name. Is it Cyclops that has the red beam as well? All kinds of names and characters I would get called, and it would just, every single day. Is that, I wouldn't say it's crime, but is that something to do with, would that fall under this kind of what we're talking about? Would it fall under the hatred?
I think that's a very good, maybe not, if I could suggest, Claire would probably be a good person to answer that. I wouldn't use the word hate, but does it come under harm? And I asked that having listened to both you and Lauren and Tayo beforehand, and the emotional element of it, in terms of what it causes. And that pecking sounds to me like a repetitive cycle. And I guess I mentioned that partly to do from a support worker's perspective. in terms of looking at various levels of abuse, whether it's from the child's perspective or whether it's from the primary carer's perspective, how they encounter that and how we have a duty to kind of witness that in public places. So it's interesting to kind of listen to you and ask that question, but I think Claire would be a good place, but I would tweak the question, Lauren, slightly and ask if it does, I mean, in some regard, come under harm.
In answer, I think, to be honest with you, I think, you know, when we're talking about sort of any kind of hatred, it's about, for me, it's about people's intentions, about where the intention, you know, we talk about semantics and the power of words, but, you know, it depends on what people's intentions are. Sometimes people, you know, some things people have been said to me. I mean, sometimes the things my son says, you know, because he's also autistic and he's extremely direct, you know, but he's very, for me, you know, and I've had other people say stuff, but it's their intention. It's what's behind that, and and that's why I think about, you know, hate crime. It's about you know, what their intentions are, you know, where they're coming from in that, and some people, they say things, you know, they say things that it really is just is ignorance, and then they're able to be taught, kind of thing. You know, I was thinking about the teachable moment. Some people, we talk about them being ignorant, but actually no, it goes more than ignorant. It goes further than ignorance, because they've got no intention of being taught. There is an intention there that goes beyond ignorance. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
And I think for that is a hate crime. I mean, ultimately, you know, making fun of anyone's you know, anyone's, you know, characteristics, or whether they wear glasses or whether their hairstyle or anything like that. I think as well, you know, Tessa said earlier on, it's about how we perceive it as well. And then when you look at harassment, you know, is, you know, distress, harassment, alarm. It's about how it makes you feel. Do you feel like you are being harassed? Do you feel distressed by this action? And I think, again, it's very similar with hate crime, about how you feel. But the law doesn't really protect, certainly in relation to sort of disability hate crime. There isn't really a huge protection, and then we wonder why there's 95% that goes unreported. But again, I mean, just by the forum, and just by us having this conversation is so important, because it's the only way we're ever going to move forward with this. And I feel, I mean, it's really changed my view, that I didn't realise how much that I wasn't talking about things myself, for myself, that I'll talk about them for everyone else. I'll go to battle, you know, I'll go and battle anyone, you know, for a client, but actually when I'm experiencing it myself, I'm not actually doing it. And it's just really made me think today. So I don't know whether that helps. But I think, you know, again, it's that intention. You know, there's been a huge case recently. I don't know if you saw, around the girl who was challenged in relation to her hair. You know, she had an afro hairstyle. I don't know if you saw that barrister, and the barrister recently came out and made an absolutely horrific comment on Twitter, and that started a huge conversation. I think that barrister's going to be struck off. But that girl, you know, the comments and everything else that she's had is a hate crime. It's absolutely a hate crime, and that was coming from a barrister, you know. So, you know, and that person should know better. So that intention was direct. They knew what they were doing. So would that be a hate crime? Yes, it would. But again, for somebody who really is just making an innocent comment, I don't know. I think it's a real difficult one to sort of police. But I think sometimes with the policing, you're stopped at the front door, like I was, you know, just walking through. The fact that the man laughed in my face, and he laughed in my face. Yeah. You know, and so, and I'm quite a tough cookie. So for anyone else who wasn't like me, would they go back? Would they then tell their friends, don't bother? And then we wonder why we've got such underreporting in relation to this. I think there's a lot of work to do. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. And it doesn't mean we shouldn't meet this challenge. I always say, you know, in these kind of situations, we're going to have this battle. So let's open our arms and welcome it. and say, come on, bring it on. Let's have the battle, because it's the only way we're ever going to change things. So
it's really interesting to listen to you there, Claire, how you started with it from a position of the intention, versus, I guess, what I heard Tessa say earlier. Well, it's not really versus, because the two can go hand in hand, which was perception. And in that kind of trying to unpack that for myself, it led me to think, I was curious to know, I guess we've heard from an autistic perspective, and I guess we know some of ourselves among this group, but I would really love to hear from Councillor Anne-Marie with regards to her experience as to whether or not she has experienced hate crime, and whether or not how she dealt with it, whether or not she reported it, and what that was like. And I guess my final question would be, for anyone in this forum today, what type of support, I guess specifically as well as in general, would you want having experienced hate crime?
Yannick, could you just repeat that question for me, please? Sorry.
Yeah, I think the general question, I guess, is what type of support would you want in general having during, after you have experienced hate crime, whether you have reported it or not? I guess specifically from perhaps maybe from a support worker's perspective, and as well as in general. And that was the general question. Then my first question, I guess, was more directed at Councillor Anne-Marie with regards to her sharing her experience, if any, of hate crime and hate crime reporting, and what that was like.
Hi, Anne-Marie, are you there?
Yes, I am. I had a phone call. This is it. Ugh. What's happening? Sorry, I had a phone call.
Yannick, could you please repeat?
Yes, Councillor. I guess the question was to kind of ask you what your, if any, experience of hate crime is. Hate crime reporting was, if you have had the experience of hate crime. And then I guess the question that follows after that, and it was a general question to everybody in the forum that has experienced hate crime, was more specific to whether they've reported it or not. Well, one, did you report it? Two, why, if you didn't report it, why not? If you did report it, what that experience was like, and what type of support you would have wanted from a support worker, family, friends, I guess your support network, and what versus what type of support you actually access.
Okay, that's quite detailed. So I'll start where you finished, which is what type of support. That's going to vary depending on the individual and whatever networks they already have. So it's only what additional will be required. And to be honest, sometimes until you're going through something, you don't necessarily know in advance. So going on to the next part of your question, which is about my personal experience. Yes, I have, and yes, I have. Yes, I have experienced it. Yes, I have reported. And those of you who know me know that I'm a fighter, because I'm a warrior woman. You know what I'm saying? So I can help myself to a certain extent. And then there's always families and friends. I have some formidable friends around me that sometimes you just want someone just to even listen to you, just listen to you offload. How dare this or that happen? How dare, because if you're able to sort it for yourself, being in four walls by yourself is not necessarily positive, at least not all the time. We all need our space, but sometimes you do need to just be venting and, talking to someone. And then the person on the receiving end of that venting, it isn't necessary for you to necessarily do anything. Just be there. Just be there sometimes is enough. Now, when I've had things happen to me, from throwing things at my door where I live, or beer cans thrown at me during in a vehicle, New Year festival, whatever, workplace incidents, And yes, whatever the systems and procedures are, yes, I've reported them, but it doesn't necessarily mean that whoever is investigating is going to find in your favor. And that's assuming that it's even investigated in the first place. If it's something in the public domain, I will always report it to the police because I think that helps to build up a picture. It's important, so I will always do that. I've also been involved in hate crime, even through referrals from GRIP or working with GRIP. I used to be a board member in its early days, and with other groups in the community, with Mavis Best MB, I co-founded Greenwich African Caribbean Organization, and we've done advocacy work there where we've even gone into schools to support parents with issues going on in the school. And that's why I said earlier that advocacy is so important, because if you're with somebody, it's amazing how the people in institution stiffen up a bit, because now they've got to watch what they're saying. They've got to properly be saying what the procedures are. And one advice I'll give you, which is so, so important when you're dealing with institutions, ask them what the procedure is. Get a copy of that procedure, because it's amazing how often, and I love that when that happens, sometimes they're not following the procedures. And I refuse to move from action 1. So if you haven't done action 1, how comes we're at action 3? So I keep going back. We haven't done that yet. You're not following the procedures. The procedures must be followed. And that immediately demonstrates that a bit of unfairness is happening. And you know what I'm saying? That really helps you. So, sorry, you have to know what procedures the institution, whether it's a school or a business or a workplace, whatever, is following. When you know what that is, then, and you understand it, then you start going through it step by step. You can't jump from there's an incident to number 12. You start 1, 2, 3. And if they're going through it systematically, then what you start looking at is, are they actually taking into account and hearing what you're saying? Are they understanding what you're saying? Because as I said before, sometimes until somebody goes through something, they find it hard to understand or to empathize. Yeah, it's like somebody could be a bully and they don't see it, but they might even see somebody else being a bully. But if you say, but what you just did is very similar to what somebody else did, they'll be horrified, because what they'll then say, but that wasn't my intention. And it's true, the intention often isn't, as it impacts on me, isn't necessarily what was meant. But the important thing is that hopefully we learn in moving forward. But if that person keeps doing that behavior, then yeah, they can't say they didn't know anymore, and that start going into discrimination or hate crime or whatever the actual incident is. And if that's the case, you've spoken to somebody, their behavior doesn't change, report it. But get support around you as well. Does that help, Yannick?
Absolutely. Thank you very, very much for sharing. You didn't drill into your personal experience enough, but I will take that. Thank you.
Yeah, I think in terms of personal experiences, it's not necessarily something happening now. Some of you, I'm a Black woman with a disability. No one would look at me and think I have a disability. Yeah, but I've been living with severe lumbar back pain for years. Yeah, for decades. Okay. And people look at me because I love dancing and so on and think, oh, no. But what you're not seeing is if I was to try and jog, I couldn't walk the next day. You're not seeing that. It's what I'm saying. So I know how far I can push myself. And, if I'm in a meeting and I need to get up and do something, people might think I'm weird or I'm being rude or something and make a comment. And, it's up to me then to disclose as much as I want to about my medical condition that I'm living with or not. But, the assumption is never, is something, are you okay? Do you need a better chair? Because people can't necessarily project to think that there's a problem why you can't sit still for lengths of time. And even when you tell some people, nothing will be done to change the room dynamics. But yet still, when you then get up, you're seen to be doing something wrong. So it's very difficult. It's all that micro. You know, we use that word micro. So those are things that might still happen today. But I've had overtly people saying things at me, spitting at me, throwing things at me just for being. Can you imagine you're going to Trafalgar Square in a New Year celebration? That stopped me going down there. This is years ago. And beer can is being thrown with drinking it. Somebody's drinking it. They see two, young black people, and they're just throwing their beer can at us in the vehicle. We're in the vehicle, thankfully. It landed on the windscreen. But you just sort of think, where does that come from? And you're at a New Year celebration. So there's lots of different things. There's some video online, actually, even in my councillor role, if you want to look at some of the issues that I go through in my councillor role. And I was taken to the standards board. It's on the council's YouTube page. If you go to YouTube Royal Greenwich Standards Board on the 11th of June 2020, you will see it, because it had to be done by video because of lockdown. You'll see the videos. So the videos are there because they're a public, standards boards are public hearing. And, everybody looking at that is wondering, how on earth did that councillor get there? But, there's been a whole load of things going on in the background to bring to the point where you're now in a public meeting being accused of saying something that you haven't said. But that's because the system can do it. Yeah, an appointment wanted to be made. All I know is I wasn't going to apologize for something that I didn't do. That was the pressure that was being put on me. And so because I didn't, the system was used to bring things to that extent. But you have to watch it for yourself to sort of really see the extent that they're prepared to do. And, even through that, in the months since then, I've had quite a few people coming to me to sort of say, oh, that was brave of you, da, 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 da. And I said, it wasn't brave of me. I couldn't control the system. I just stood my grounds for what I believed in, what I knew happened, what I knew I did or didn't do. But the system, it shows you how the system, going back to a question that Yanni asked earlier, can be used against you, because everyone will work together. The individuals within that system, the system is the people, can work together to work against you. But I felt I had to stand my ground because I hadn't done anything wrong. And I think it's been a great educational material in the end for people to see just how far the system will go to try and work against you. But we have to be strong. Okay?
That was awesome. Thank you very, very much for sharing that, Councillor. At the same time, I couldn't help but feel and wanting to tap into, I guess, what maybe some of the others, Claire, Tayo, maybe Lauren, have experienced with regards to, and myself, with regards to try to engage the system. And I guess to some degree, it's Claire or Tatiana, or sometimes you, Councillor, or some of the other staff members on here that help to pick me up with some of the things that quite a few of you know I've encountered. And
you've been
I would like to say, what I'm saying is that the people on here are quite astute. And whilst there are some conditions and living circumstances which are quite challenging, they are able to vocalize, and they have the capacity, which is the word I'm looking for what capacity means for them to have whatever they need, whether it's external support or internal support within their own mechanism, to somehow continue, to somehow be able to first and foremost read the language and understand it when you have to even fill in the forms to begin to access some of these services. And if you haven't got the emotional, the psychological well-being at that point in time, it can be difficult because of your individual limitations, first and foremost, whilst this is unfolding, that pecking, as Claire was suggesting before. And I guess I'm coming back, looking at it twofold. I'm glad you're sharing. And on the one hand, it was very rich and sad to hear of your experiences too. I'm not surprised. But at the same time, to hear that you, in your capacity, with your range of resources, which I probably imagine the rest of us don't have or may not have, I don't know that, is struggling with the same system, what therefore hope is there for us when it concerns our children?
I do what I do because I'm thinking of my children and your children. And you know what I'm saying? Because it's true. What my mum went through, I say my mum because it was a single parent scenario. And then what I'm going through is my children. And you're right to have that worry. But the fact of the matter is, going back to what I said earlier, the system isn't there. That's my experience, to give you your rights. Most people have to fight for their rights. I don't know what else to say, and I'm basing that on my reality, because even as somebody, as a counselor, it wasn't given to me on a plate. You had to struggle to get there. Efforts were made to not make me get selected because my type of community support and so on perhaps isn't everybody, it's not the same as everybody else's, or maybe I'm too outspoken. And who knows? Maybe I'm too black for heaven's sakes. I don't know, So whatever the reason is, it's almost, I look at it as, if you come from a family with lots of children and resources are limited in the family and it's dinner time, everybody wants to scramble for the chicken leg or the chicken breast, the best bit. Fact is, somebody's going to get the back, isn't it? Now, a good way around it might be to say, okay, Anne-Marie got the leg today, so tomorrow let me give it to Yannick, and you know what I'm saying? Claire can have the breast and or whatever, and we'll give somebody the back. You know what I mean? We share it around. But unfortunately, it's not that. It's a constant scrabble. So what we've got to do is to think, as an individual, I can only do so much. And I've got to watch my mental health. I've got to think about my physical health, my family health, people around me. I've got to manage that. And then you've got some time left over to take on some of the challenges that needs to be done. The ones that aren't vital. You'll focus on the vital things that has to be done for your day-to-day living, your children's education, etc. And a lot of other things aren't vital. So have you got a home? Better than being on the street. You know what I'm saying? Are you in a school? Better than not being in a school. But once your child is in a school, is the child being properly taught and getting the education that they need? So it's almost like prioritizing what you can deal with. Some you can deal with on your own. Other things you're going to need advocacy for. And other things are going to take so long, you start wondering why you even started the journey in the first place. Because as I keep saying, it is the support, because it's the lack of support that often sends us going, what can I say? Feeling fed up. We don't want to deal with it. We don't deal with it. I have my days when I have to, I call on my Christian background, and I'll do my Jesus mode. Remember, Jesus went into the desert to get away from people, or up a mountain, or on a boat. Yeah? So Jesus had to do that. So of course I'm mere human. You know what I'm saying? Of course I've got to isolate myself at times. So sometimes when I'm ready, I don't want to mix with anyone, because I need my time to heal, to regroup my thoughts, to just stay in my bed and feel pampered for a little while, to just be with my girls. To just be away from it all, and then you regenerate. One thing though, I do control. I do stop myself if I feel, no, this is going on for too long. I've got to get up and go back into the world now, sort of thing. Yeah. So everybody knows. We need to know, and we need to listen to our bodies and know when we need to rest, and know when we're ready to go back out there and fight. Yeah. But you need your advocacy. You're doing it, and things to do with the local authority, as I said. That's what the councillors are there for. I hear what Claire said earlier on, but that is what they can. Well, I don't know, unless I'm being silly and taking on too much work. I mean, Yannick, with your situation, you copied me in, and then I even had to come to you and say, oh my gosh, but I'm not your councillor. But I understand, by just having me there, copied into this continuing drama that, I just couldn't understand why it couldn't get resolved. You know, but there are so many departments, and we need to try and get them to try and work together, which is one of the things that I asked about. Why aren't they all working together in my background input? Otherwise, just having my name on the email was possibly comfort to you, because you knew that there was somebody else there that was seeing what was going on, and every now and then might interject with a question like, why aren't all these departments working together to resolve this? You know, and then you get data, and then you get all the data protection issues.
Well, absolutely, and also integrity, and I would say that I think you have it, and I don't think any of your other colleagues have it. So it is difficult to sometimes actually know who to go to, because we listen to these counsellors, and quite often, if you do actually track what they say, they revert quite a lot, and it's a lot of gestures that seem are well-meaning, but underneath all of it, nothing actually comes out of all of it. I have tried to access my counsellors. I'm someone that uses those mechanisms that you point out, including the ones here for other matters. Now, I imagine like them, you're probably saturated now with a variety of different inquiries, but I want to keep this a bit more focused on what matters to me most. I guess children, autism and special needs. And with that, there's over 7,000 in the Greenwich Borough. And I'd imagine, therefore, our counsellors, there's some within Abbeywood where your counsellor. I haven't yet come across a parent or a family member in terms of listening to them that hasn't encountered similar challenges to myself. Now, when I was asking my question earlier on with regards to is hate crime systemic, I guess those types of questions, is it something that you guys even discussed in your forums?
Oh, yeah. And do you know you can come to the public meetings?
Do you know, I've been to many of those. I have been told quite often I am a fool for attending. It's a waste of my time. Okay. I'm usually one of the few people that actually attends. And quite often there is very little in terms of various listening events that take place. Health Watch, voluntary sector, just this summer, for example. And nothing. We're always listening or always asked to give feedback, but nothing ever comes out of most of those.
I'm going to give you something to give me to do. Could you, in this forum, the next full council is on the 25th of this month, I think. I know everything is online now, and because online meetings can be difficult, they've cut out the public question section. But what you can do, if you have a question, is to give me a question to raise on your behalf. That then get raised at full council. It's recorded, and a response will be got for you. But what's the, is there one key question? It could be more than one. If there's some key questions, I'll just have to try and see what I can get to ask. But because you can have a question, agree amongst yourself. That's something to work out separately, and get that question to me and ask me to raise it at full council on your behalf.
Happy to do that. Would love to converse, particularly with a lot of the people that are on here, to get some informed perspectives, as well as some of the other parents that we know or work with, or colleagues or friends, and maybe come up with a set of questions, maybe 2 or 3 questions for you to ask, if that would be okay. That would be awesome.
Yeah, do that. Okay, and I will do that for you. And this is how, when I say about knowing how the system works and following it, because you said something about you have been told you're a fool, and unfortunately, that was a wrong advice to give. That's to put you off, whoever did that. The problem is enough people are not engaging with democracy. That's the problem. So once again, there you are, isolated like a little bird naked on a branch. You know what I'm saying? No feathers, and there's a gale. And you're trying there to do the right thing, and everybody else is flying past telling you you're stupid, wasting your time. So it isn't a waste of time. But one of the key meetings is the full council. When full council start happening again in public, you need to turn up to those, and you'll see that people do turn up. Unfortunately, it's usually the same people, and they ask questions. And so the lockdown, and because the controlling, you know what it's like when the systems go wrong and trying to control the speed, the sound, and so on. So it got a bit messy trying to have the public part of the full council. So that bit has been stopped for the Zoom meetings. You can still watch it online, but it's not the same like when it was in the town hall. So hopefully when the dates come back to having full council meetings, it would be great for you guys to be there, to have put up questions, to ask supplementary questions, etc.
Can I, Anne-Marie? Anne-Marie, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but thank you first of all, because I said, I wish we could clone you, to be honest, within the council. I really do, because as Yannick just says, integrity, is key, and I've always said that about you. But we did try and raise this. So there was a meeting. I don't know, maybe Yannick, you were there. There was quite a lot of us there a couple of years ago with Danny Thorpe and Tracy.
Greenwich Parent Voice, March 2019. I can give you the.
And we went to this meeting, Anne-Marie, and basically what they did was, so no one was allowed to actually ask the questions. The questions had to be already in writing, so they knew what was going to be coming. And that, at that meeting, and ever since then, I've tried to actually ask Danny Thorpe to explain himself about the fact that he said that he does not have to meet his statutory duty on SEN because of austerity. Now, I've said this over again. I mean, Yannick, you've heard me in loads of meetings where I've said, can somebody please explain to Danny Thorpe what statutory means? He does have to meet his statutory duty. I mean, there are policies on the Royal Borough of Greenwich websites that are illegal in relation to SEN children. So if you are able to raise things, that would be tremendous. And not just for my child, not just for Yannick's child, but for all children. And these are your most vulnerable children. I often see all these pictures of Danny, talking about the meals and stuff like that. And and my son has free school meals, and we're really, really grateful for it. But what worries me is that a lot of the time the most vulnerable children are being attacked. So the disabled children, the poor children are being sort of left behind. So the fact that you're even prepared to raise those questions, I doff my cap, is all I can say to you. So thank you.
I'm prepared to raise those questions. So you get those questions to me. I don't have to agree them with Danny or anybody else. It's the public question. And all I would need to do is to stand up and say, I've been asked by, this group. So you phrase your questions. I'm clear about the name of the group, because I know this is a joint thing. So, and what the question is. And yes, look at it in the sense of generally people's a general need rather than necessarily specific, because I don't think there'll be time to sort of explain somebody's story, because that would just take up the question. So you really need to go, I need to sort of say, this community group is quite concerned that blah blah blah, and it goes to the relevant cabinet member for a response. They have to stand up, and if they're not prepared to answer, then they'll have to send a written answer.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Anne-Marie.
It gets on the agenda and it'll be minuted. So you'll have to think, what is it you really want? And you've got time between all of you. What is it as your group you really want or would like to see? I would guess something around feeling that the system is working against you might be one of them. I don't know, because that keeps coming up a lot. Navigating the system.
And accountability for, I think, for my groups and my national advocacy, over and over again, I think, I ask people if there was one thing you could have, and it always comes back to accountability. That somebody is accountable for the actions and the decisions that they make.
Following the law, Claire.
Yeah, I know. My 3 words: follow the law. I know. Thank you.
Okay, then, lovely.
I think I will let Tatiana close off. We've kind of gone past quarter to. I would like to kind of thank you very, very much, Councillor. I am mindful of your schedules and the amount of meetings that are being rearranged by so many departments. So it's amazing to me that you happen to be here. And so thank you very much. We hope to see you again. Thank you, Lauren. Thank you, Ayo, for sharing. Thank you, Claire. And I will hand over to Tatiana.
Okay, hello everybody. It's been really, really interesting today, and I'm sure it's going to continue to be like that for the rest of our hate crime awareness events. So please do look out for joining us and the emails. Sorry, just trying to do a few things here. Yeah, for those coming up. Thank you for contributing today. I hope that you all got something out of this, as I did, and that we also got to speak with one another and get to know each other as well, which was very helpful. And I've definitely come away from this knowing a lot more than I did about this this area. So thank you very much. Thank you. I don't think Buba is here, but thank you, Yannick, for coming in and giving us those the drumming, which was lovely. I will let you know what's coming up next. And obviously some of you are going to be getting in contact via Yannick after the meeting as well. Please stay tuned, and please do come back and let's share and let's get more awareness of this this area out there. Got the dog jumping up, oh gosh. Got so many things happening. But please have a good day, and I will catch up with you and see you guys next time.
Thank you
so much. Thank you very much. Thank you, Anne-Marie.
Thank you everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks everyone. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.